There's a metal plaque on the bench.
Is there a message engraved on it?
I think there was at one point. But someone scratched it off. It's a sea serpent, turned into stone by a wizard.
If you say so. What happened to its head?
Beheaded. By the same wizard.
Is that a clock?
If it is, it's a clock with 4 faces.
I'm guessing it doesn't tell the time.
So what does it do?
I got it.
I'm impressed. What's in the box?
A little tool thing? Looks like a telescope, but I'm not actually sure what it is.
Whoa, nice cape.
You're not fellows or pointers. I'm sure I shall immediately regret asking. But who are you, and what is your business here?
I'm Sally, and this is my sidekick Grimoire.
A private detective, Grimoire.
Really? You're a detective. If this is a joke, it's not a good one.
Who are you, anyway?
Private Detective Hawkshaw.
Oh, nice. Hawkshaw's a cooler name than Grimoire. Maybe I'll become her sidekick.
You're not on the Freya Fellow case, too, are you?
That is classified information between myself and my client. Clearly, this is something which eludes you. But a real detective refrains from handing out informations to persons unknown.
Oh, right.
Now, if you would, I have work to do. It's not in my interest to discuss personal details.
Even if you're one of the suspects in a murder?
Very well. Let us make a small exception. Ask.
Oh, what are you doing here?
I'm on a case at the behest of my client.
How long have you been at Tangle Tower?
133 hours. 5.5 days.
Who are you working for?
I am not at liberty to answer that. Now, I shall permit you one more question.
What crime are you...
How'd you get that scar? It's cool.
You really think so? As it happens, I completed an examination of Flora's room on the morning before the murder. I've been investigating every single room at Tangle Tower. Hers was one of the last on my list.
Did you find anything unusual?
Nothing but a thin layer of dust and an atmosphere of somber melancholy.
Was Flora in there at the time?
She spent the duration of my search staring up at the sky, out the open window. Didn't say a word, although I'm told this is the expected behavior.
What did you do after that?
I spent the early evening searching the library. It took longer than it should have. Fiona leaves that room in a permanent state of disarray.
Fiona was in the library too?
I expected her to make an appearance, but she did not.
And you stayed in the library the rest of the day?
Not quite. Towards the early evening, my examination of the library was unexpectedly disrupted. Sounds of running, wailing, shouting from several floors above. I vacated the library, but before I could begin my ascent, Professor Pointer appeared. He emerged from the Pointer staircase, crossed the hall, and begun up the fellow staircase. Our eyes met. He was breathless. Something had caused him great alarm. He told me to stay out of the way. I consented. I decided to return to my office in the stone square. As I was passing through the front door, Penelope called out from behind me. She was clutching the banister of the Pointer staircase with an apprehensive manner. She wished to know where Professor Pointer had gone. I told her what had transpired. Then, she too crossed the hall and disappeared up the fellow staircase. More so than at any moment prior, I felt like quite an intruder in the house. I took my leave, out towards the stone square. The grounds were silent. There were no signs of human life. Even the greenhouse was without its typical inhabitant. I noted that he, too, must be entangled in whatever was transpiring in Fellow Tower. An unremarkable hour passed before the gardener finally made his appearance. He spoke to me of what had occurred. His report was as clumsy and cumbersome as the man giving it.
Did he seem upset?
He was rattled. That much was clear. But sorrowful, mournful, I cannot say. Quite the stoic statue, isn't she? I can only dream of being as cold and indifferent as Flora Fellow.
You think she's hiding something?
Perhaps. She has some strange habits. I heard she barely sleeps, an hour here or there, sporadically. Spends the rest of her time staring up at the sky. 314 cases solved.
314?
Freya Fellow is of great interest to me. I perceived her to be the most intelligent individual here at Tangle Tower. Within a day, she had identified for whom I was working and for what I was searching. I didn't know how she did it. I was impressed. I regret that I did not question her more thoroughly when I had the opportunity.
You couldn't have known she was about to be killed, though.
I have only myself to blame for failing to perceive the signs.
What signs?
I do not wish to do your job for you, Detective. Did you get anything useful out of him?
Not sure. What about you?
Nothing worth committing to paper.
I think he knows more than he lets on.
Probably. But talking with him is so tedious. Considerably intelligent, and her powers of observation are enviable. But she has no ambition. No focus.
In her defense, she's still a teenager.
Barely. Tangle Tower. No idea why they insist on calling it that. It's not even a tower. It's little more than a pair of turrets stuck on either side of a mansion.
Have you searched the whole place?
I believe so. Why?
He wants to know if you found any secret rooms.
Huh. I'm afraid the residents of Tangle Tower are far too ordinary for anything like that. I was disappointed, too. You truly consider this a case file?
What's wrong with it?
No organization, no system.
That's my style. I like seeing everything laid out at once. Yeah, it helps me think.
How quaint. Conveniently left anonymous. It's useless until you can prove to whom it concerns. Can you do that?
No?
No. The paint is still wet.
Yeah, well, we know Freya was in the middle of painting when she was killed.
Do you know that? How? Because you were told? Makes quite an impression, doesn't it? Although I can't imagine why she painted Flora wielding a knife.
You didn't see a knife anywhere in Flora's room, did you?
I did not. I conclude whatever stabbed Freya must have been brought into the room from outside. Unless, of course, it was the painting itself.
Surely you don't believe in that kind of thing.
A detective's job is to examine every avenue of thinking. Paints?
Yep.
Paints.
Mm-hmm.
I admit, it's powerful. Freya was a talented young woman.
Someone even liked it enough to take a photo of it.
Now, we don't know why they took the photograph, do we? Perhaps they just wanted it for reference.
When did Freya draw the picture of you, Hawkshaw?
I didn't model for her, if that's what you're asking. She must have done it without my permission.
Could just be from memory. It's not quite as detailed as the others anyway. This belongs to you, Hawkshaw?
Correct.
And, what is it?
It's my handheld microscope for up-close investigation work.
What do you magnify with it?
Trace particles, dust, oils, clothing fibers.
Have you used it here at Tangle Tower?
I have. I used it to examine the greenhouse only 2 days ago.
What were you looking for?
That is between myself and my client.
This one's in a little pot.
Okay, that is definitely not edible.
It looks like a gemstone, don't you think?
A little chart of, actually, I have no idea what it's about. Kinda reminds me of a periodic table.
What do you make of it?
Not a whole lot.
Sally, don't move. We're being watched.
Yeah, I see him. He's a little too big to hide in the bushes. Is anyone going to say anything? Or shall we just stand around staring at each other?
Right, sorry.
Sorry.
That's better. I'm Sally. And the guy hiding behind me is Detective Grimoire. Who are you?
Fitzfellow, the gardener.
Mm-hmm. And why are you so tall?
I don't know.
You work here as the gardener.
I don't get paid to do it. It's just my area of interest.
What's the deal with the plants? They're all kinda weird.
Right. Did you see the lake?
That giant green and purple lake surrounding the entire house? Yeah, I clocked it.
The color is just a byproduct.
Of what? Poison?
It's not poisonous. Not to you.
What's this got to do with the plants?
The water controls all life, just like anywhere else on the planet. Clouds form, rain falls. The water grows the plants, animals eat the plants. Anything you've perceived as an irregularity is simply a result of this hydrological cycle.
Could you say that again, but condense it as if you were talking to a slightly stupid person?
Our lake water causes the unpredictable alteration of DNA, sometimes.
Alteration? Like mutation?
That'd be the official term. For us, it's normal. Just nature.
And you're the local expert on all this stuff?
No, I'm just the gardener. I was in my greenhouse, watering and weeding.
Sounds exciting.
Was anyone else around?
Not at first. Penelope came in a little later. She likes looking at the flowers, I think.
Did you speak to each other?
A little, not too much. We both left the greenhouse in the early afternoon. I went up to my room. Then I came back outside to weed the main gardens. Didn't see anyone else. After that, I went up to the garden outside my room.
And?
Let me guess. Watering and weeding.
Right.
Did anything happen to you yesterday, Fitz?
I was up in the rooftop garden. It was quiet. And then, it wasn't. I can't describe it. Could have been a scream, but it didn't sound human. We thought it was coming from Flora's tower, so we went up there.
We?
Poppy was with me. Did I not mention that? Flora's room was locked. That's normal. She usually locks it from the inside. I knocked on the door and shouted. Nobody responded. We became concerned.
You kicked the door down?
I did. Poppy and I went in. Freya was right there, laying on her back. Flora was there too, but I barely noticed her at first. Poppy left the room for a while. When she came back, she had her father with her, and Fifi too. Penelope arrived shortly after that, with Felix in tow. I thought that was odd. You don't normally see the two of them together. Felix took charge. There was nothing else I could do to help. I wanted to go back to my room, but I realized nobody had told Detective Hawkshaw anything. I found her pacing back and forth around the stone square. When I approached her, she snapped at me. I think she was annoyed about being made to wait outside so long. But when I told her about Freya, she fell silent. I like Flora. I hope she's all right.
Do you think she had anything to do with the murder?
There's no way. She wouldn't willingly cause any additional suffering for anyone. She questioned me.
About what?
My work, the plants, bit of everything.
Did she search the greenhouse?
No, she didn't.
You sure? Maybe she did it when you weren't in there.
No, she hasn't touched it.
How can you tell?
Trust me, I can tell. She was always kind to me. She'd come into the greenhouse when I was working. Sometimes by herself, sometimes with Poppy. I think they were just bored at first. Eventually, they started asking questions.
About what?
Poppy wanted to learn about flowers. Freya, she used to ask me about the insects.
Insects?
One of my jobs is to protect plants from things that might eat them. Freya brought me this little glass box, leaves and twigs inside. She'd say, put all the troublemakers in there. Every day I'd put a handful of beetles and other things in the box. Then she'd come along and take it away. I didn't really understand her, but she was always kind.
Have you met this guy, Fitz? Shifty eyes, doesn't say a lot. Totally suspicious, if you ask me.
That's me.
Yeah, it was a joke. I was joking.
Oh, I see. Fifi doesn't like me.
What did you do?
I'm not sure. If you find out, maybe you can let me know. Felix is a contradiction. His loyalties are placed firmly within the realm of materialism, money, property. But his ego relies on an entirely fraudulent self-image, don't you think?
I was just about to say the same thing.
Nice painting. Gives you a pretty good idea of the layout.
The lake looks like it forms a perfect circle around the island.
It might seem strange to you, but nature is quite capable of producing perfectly geometric forms.
And those mountain cliff things around the outside?
We don't know much about them. They're unscalable. Not even Freya could have gone up there.
What's that?
This painting, it's speculative. There are no photographs from this angle as far as I know.
So Freya just made it up.
Let's call it an informed estimation. This is a good example of how things work. I mixed that soil here in the greenhouse. It's made with water from the lake.
And it makes the fruit grow all shiny and gem-stony?
Sometimes. You never really know what's going to happen.
And what do you do with this shiny, inedible fruit?
You look at it.
Fitz, one of these drawings is of you, in the rooftop garden, I think, with Poppy.
Mm-hmm. Are we done? Freya's best work, in my opinion. Although the photo doesn't carry the same energy as the real thing.
What do you think it's a painting of?
What do you mean?
Like, what's the subject matter? What's that big red thing?
Oh, I don't think it's that kind of painting. Who gave you that information?
Well...
We don't actually know who it was. We were contacted anonymously.
I see. And what happens if the person who contacted you turns out to be the murderer?
I never thought about that.
Honestly, that would be kind of fun. Like a twist, you know?
How odd. It's Fifi and Freya.
Don't you think Poppy should be in the photo too?
Maybe, maybe not. She doesn't really like crowds.
2 people isn't a crowd.
Right, but if she was in the photo, then it'd be 3.
Checkmate. Fitz's room is unlocked. It's up in the fellow tower.
This could be interesting. Oh, whatever it is, it's playing a little trumpet.
Well, it is the music room. He's got to practice.
What's with all the broken glass? One old wooden bookcase.
Yep.
25 dry old books.
Mm-hmm.
4 lit candles.
Yeah.
Am I the only one seeing the problem?
Are you a ghost?
Sally! That's rude! Unless she is a ghost.
It may come as a disappointment, but I am alive.
Ah,
That makes you a suspect, I'm afraid.
I know.
what's your name?
My name is Poppy. I'm a pointer. And a pianist.
We'll need to ask you a few questions about Freya.
I know.
Hey, you're pretty good.
All in the wrist. And 13 years of dedicated practice. I'm just me. There's nothing to know.
How are you related to the other pointers?
My father is Percival Pointer. The professor spends most of his time hidden away in his tower. Barely speaks to anyone these days. Especially not the fellows.
Do you get on with the fellows?
2 of them. Fifi and Freya are my closest friends. We all turned 19 last year.
Do people ever leave Tangle Tower? I don't mean to be rude. It's just, if you're 19...
You don't have to answer that, Poppy.
It's a fair question. I'd like to move away. Definitely. Fifi, Freya, and I would often talk about it, argue about it. Freya wanted to leave, but Fifi... Things are more complicated for her.
What about now?
After what happened, I really don't want to stay here much longer. 3.5 hours of piano practice. Soon as I wake up. Same as always.
3.5. Does that not hurt your hands?
Sure.
And you do this in the music room?
No, I prefer to practice in my room. When I make mistakes, I like to make them in private.
What did you do after that?
I was supposed to meet Fifi in the library, but I totally forgot. When I finally got down there, she'd already gone. I checked her bedroom, but it was locked.
Was Fifi not in there?
No idea. She keeps her door locked either way. So I went back upstairs and out into the moonlight garden.
The what?
The little garden on the roof outside my room.
Was it just you up there?
No. Fitz came outside after a while. His room's on the other side. He's been teaching me about flowers.
So, did you talk to him?
Not really.
You ignored each other.
I didn't say that. Fitz and I were up in the moonlight garden most of the afternoon. Then we heard this sound. Lasted about 3 seconds. I've been trying to decide how to describe it, but I'm struggling. It was like something drilling into a piece of metal, but different. Worse. I was pretty sure it was coming from Flora's tower, so we went up there to check. Her door was locked. Nobody was answering. I knew Freya and Flora were both supposed to be in there, so I made Fitz kick down the door. I went inside. Freya was lying on the floor.
Flora was in the room too?
Yeah. I think she realized what had happened at the same moment I did. I didn't know what to do, so I ran downstairs to get Fifi. Her door was still locked, but I knocked and shouted at her. Eventually, she let me in. The lights were off, but I could see she'd already been crying. I told her what had happened. She didn't believe me. She got angry. First time I've ever seen her angry. I dragged her out into the hall. My father was there too, for some reason. The 3 of us went back up to Flora's tower. Then Felix arrived. He had Penny with him. Fifi had this idea. She wanted to do some kind of scientific test. She took me down to the library. We were in there about 15 minutes. After she was done, she went back upstairs and I went back to my room.
That's it?
That's it.
So there are 2 families living in Tangle Tower?
Mm-hmm. 3 pointers and 5 fellows. 4 fellows.
What's the connection between them?
There isn't one. Not really. It was all built by the Remington family. Flora is a Remington, originally. So was Primrose, my mother. She married into the Pointers, and Flora married into the Fellows.
So the Fellows and the Pointers own the house now?
Flora owns the house. Depending on who you ask, that means her husband Felix owns it too.
What about your father?
His claim over the house kind of fell apart after my mother left.
Where's your mother now?
No idea. There's something I noticed about Freya's knife wound.
Hit me.
From what we could tell, the blade went in at an exact right angle, perpendicular to Freya's body, and there's only one small pool of blood. Nothing on Freya's hands, or anywhere else. The whole thing is just a little too peaceful. This is mine.
Really?
No, well, yes, it was. I gave it to Freya about a year ago.
What was on it?
Nothing. It was blank. Freya said she wanted to record something.
Any idea how it ended up underwater?
Maybe someone wanted to destroy it, but got really lazy.
Does this belong to you, Poppy?
Now that's not really my style, is it?
But who else would own a tape like this?
Literally anybody?
What do you make of this statue?
I know that's the only harp in the whole of Tangle Tower. I've never actually seen a real one.
Maybe it's from before your time.
Oh, definitely. You see how old this statue is?
What about the symbols? One of them looks like piano keys.
Yeah, weird. Don't look at me. I didn't break it.
Does anybody else use the music room?
Yes. I don't know who, but I can tell when somebody else has touched the piano. Don't you think that's weird? That the letter isn't addressed to anyone or signed by anyone?
Someone's being deliberately secretive.
Or they're trying to manipulate you. When I first saw it, I thought it looked like Flora was holding a knife with blood on the tip.
You don't think that anymore?
No, it was a stupid thing to say. The room was dark. I was in shock. I'm just an idiot.
But it was blood on the tip. If you hadn't said anything, maybe Fifi wouldn't have checked.
Exactly. It's stupid.
But we would have missed out on an important clue.
Is it a clue? Really? Tell me how it's a clue. Tell me how it helps. Nothing about the knife makes any sense. It's just freaking everyone out. Wish I'd never said anything. It was my mother's originally.
So, why is it up in Flora's room?
She just gets the most use out of it. Freya would borrow it too sometimes. How sweet. I think everybody sees something different.
Did Freya ever tell you what she saw in it?
Not exactly. She said something about it being from a recurring nightmare.
Sorry, but if it was from a nightmare, why would you paint it and leave it in front of your bed?
Maybe she wanted to take control of it. Giving something a physical form can make it easier to deal with. Well, sometimes. Hey, that's me. Not a bad likeness.
It looks like you're standing in a rose bush.
Is there something wrong with that? Is that supposed to be Flora?
Possibly.
Oh, how nice.
All right, Poppy's bedroom is unlocked.
I wonder what's in there.